Hi everyone. Welcome replay viewers, welcome live viewers, welcome Periscope viewers, welcome everyone. If you're joining me today, I'm so glad. We're going to be talking more about writing, which we were doing yesterday. Cynthia, yay, and Fazar, I think that was how I pronounced the name. Cynthia's here too. Yay, Ali, welcome. I am so glad you're here. We started the conversation about writing yesterday. Hey, Jimmy. And we're going to continue it today. So, I hope that you want to talk about writing because that's why we're here. We're here to talk about how important our stories are and how important our stories are not only if we want to write them, but in understanding them so that we can actually predict our future. You know, the thing that I learned about my story is that in studying it when I was going through the grief recovery program to become certified, they had us look at our loss timeline, and they went through the whole thing explaining how these things had created the person that you are today. Jason, welcome. I was so fascinated to see the common thread throughout my life. It was remarkable. Bringing Pretty back, yay, and Sue is here, yay, that's my sister. Jason, welcome. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. I'm trying to read as fast as I can. Hello, hello. I'm glad you're here. So, and you're on a mission to bring Pretty back. And I love that idea. You know, you were one of the first people that I actually watched on Periscope, I think. Didn't you start a long time ago? I think so. And also I know that you know Bonnie, who is one of the best people on Periscope there is, Bonnie Frank. If you're not following her, I hope you all do, because she is a business entrepreneur's greatest gift, especially for online people. She really knows her stuff. And I took online course from her about how to do Periscope in 2015. And I have been doing Periscope ever since. I started in September of 2015 and I've got over 350 shows. So it was a huge benefit, because what does Periscope do? It connects me with the people that are in the same enthusiasm for life that I am. I love the people that join me night after night who are as excited to tell their story and who they are and where they're headed and what their life is all about as I can be, because that fuels me. It helps me become a better writer. For those of you who don't know me, and I suspect that the person that just came on, Cigar something, welcome. I'm an author. I'm also a business professional. I'm a real estate agent, and I passionately love writing. Judy, welcome. I passionately love writing. It fuels me. It gives me the excitement to wake up in the morning. As a business professional, real estate, does that do it? In some ways it does. It's the excitement of connecting with people and working the contracts and negotiations and learning marketing. And in fact, I had one of my biggest sales ever yesterday. I am so over the moon excited. And I'm going to be celebrating tomorrow in my office because my office is so excited. We're having a big celebration in the morning for that closing. Tell us. Oh, it's a beautiful 22-acre ranch in Southern California, and it's called the Real Deal Ranch, and it is the real deal. It is so spectacular. Oh, let me just turn off my phone, sorry. Yeah, there we go. It is so spectacular. The home sits on top of the hill of the 22 acres and overlooks all of the Temecula-Murrieta Valley. It has pastures. It has 2 barns. One is a 32-stall barn. Now, if you can imagine what a 32-stall barn looks like, it's like more than a football field. It is huge and gorgeous. I mean, even from the flooring, talk about bringing pretty back. He brought pretty to this barn. It has inlaid stones in the walkways of all of the aisles of the barns, of each stall. It is gorgeous. And then it has an infinity edge pool, a secondary barn. It has a covered arena that is, you can do events there. It's for events because it has like a grandstand and everything. And I am so happy for my sellers because they are moving away and had to sell it. And I was worried about how long it would take to sell because those unusual horse properties can take a long time, years even. And it didn't take as long as I thought. It was actually about a year. If I look at it honestly, it was probably about 4 months because 6 months of that time we were setting it up for, we did videos and everything. So we didn't really even show it for the first several months. And it is so spectacular. And the people that bought it are so excited to be moving there. And love animals, love horses. They're just going to love La Cresta and the La Cresta lifestyle. And for those of you who live here, you know what that is. It's beautiful rolling hills of acreage and horse trails, and right next to the Cleveland National Forest. Thank you, Judy. I appreciate that. I know. This is where the heart comes in. When you know that what your client's story is, it makes you work even harder for them. And my clients were very open and connected. We connected really well with each other, and also my business partner as well. We had an ongoing story that we continued with them. We sold them in the house, not that particular house, but we sold another house of theirs several years ago. And it's a beautiful thing to have that ongoing relationship. And the reason that it was established as an ongoing relationship, I can tell you quite truthfully, it's our stories. We shared not only our business expertise, but who we are as human beings, our compassion for what their need was and what they needed to do to make the next chapter of their life work. Now they're going on to a spectacular property, but it's not near here. His business is a couple hours away, so they are moving from here, from this area. But it was so important that we understand their goals and commitments and their history and their story in order to really get the connection to do the best job that we could. And I am so proud that we did. And it's my biggest sale ever. So I am celebrating today and very, very happy to be rewarded for the work that I have been doing and that I put into it and that my business partner and I have done. So anyway, the other thing, as I said, that I love is helping you with your story. And story doesn't have to mean that you become a writer. It doesn't. Some people don't ever want to write. But knowing who you are and where you come from, that's the connecting point to all relationships. You can't have a relationship with someone and not know something about them. That's the truth. And that's why I feel that probably 80% of the business that my business partner and I have is repeat business. It's referrals and repeat business because we connect with them on a deeper level. It is not just about contracts. It's about fulfilling their needs, their goals, and their dreams. And that's what knowing your story does for you. As a writer, it's critical that you know what you're trying to convey, because who will care? You have to make your reader care in order for your story to mean something. So today we're going to be continuing the conversation about advice from writers to writers. And these are really big writers that I researched for this conversation. Quite simply, you learn to write by writing. That's number one. But you also learn to write by reading. And that is number two. My sister's a big reader. She's on Periscope tonight. And, you know, the thing about reading, and Oprah says this, readers are leaders. And what I think also is that readers are creatives. Because even though you think you're not creative, you are a better storyteller if you read. You are a better person in understanding the depth of characters if you read. Reading is knowledge also. If you don't read, you can't find out about something new. I mean, you can listen to TV all day or watch YouTube all day. But the truth is, reading opens your mind and the activity of your mind. Instead of you just being an observer, you're participating in what you're reading. And that's huge. You become a participant when you read. You're just a viewer when you watch. And I have known this for a long time because I see what my brain does when I read versus just watching television. I absorb so much more if I'm really into the story, if the writer has done a great job of involving me. But I can watch a video and not retain a lot of it. But the most important thing is waking up that creative brain, and that happens by reading a lot of the times. So Maya Angelou says something that I love, this quote. She says, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you." And I can look at my own story. Isn't that beautiful? Is that you, Cynthia? Isn't that beautiful? Oh, we got a couple of different colors of hearts going today. No greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. You know, one thing that I am recognizing in the writers that I have been working with is how important their story is to their family. I am so blessed to know the impact that, for instance, Sally's story has had on her daughters, because they didn't know what her story was before she wrote her book. And Shavana was the same way. Her mom didn't know a lot of what was in her book. And she was so grateful to know her daughter more deeply. You know, it also made her feel good because she said at first, Shavana said, in her book, she said, "At first I didn't like my name." And her mom said, "Oh, I didn't know she didn't like her name. I loved her name." Shavana said, "No, I didn't like it because nobody could ever spell it. And, you know, it just seemed like a strange name." Well, today, Shavana loves her name because nobody else has it. And she could get the .com on her name just with Shavana. She didn't even have to put a last name. I swear to you, if I put Sandy.com, there would be 10 million Sandys that want that .com. Shavana got Shavana.com because of how unusual her name was. And you don't forget it. You remember it, and it suits her. So writing your story is not only a gift to yourself for all of the elements of your life that come to life, but also for your family, your legacy. You know, my sister does genealogy, and she also sort of collects the stories of people from researching the lineage. And, you know, most of us don't even know those stories. Wouldn't it be wonderful if your book was on a shelf for your children? Or your book was on a shelf for the people who wanted to connect with you in a deeper way? You know, I love that I have a book, and I love that my husband today gets to read my story of my past. and understand me a little bit better. And I know when he read my book, he called me because he was in Tucson at the time and he just finished the book. And I remember when he read the book and he couldn't speak. He was crying. He said, "I am so glad to know your history, to know your story, to know what you went through, because I didn't get to have you until 5 years ago." And my whole history is in there, a huge part of it. And that's because I wrote my story. As new writers, or if some of you are new, some of you have been doing it a long time. I said yesterday that you have an exciting new world to look forward to. Ideas come rapidly to you. They'll just come from nowhere at all hours of the day. And that was sort of an exciting concept for me once it started happening. I remember when I wrote my first book, Rosie, and I could hardly wait to start the second book, Chester the Imperfect All-Star. I could hardly wait. And then the third book, Lightning Lizzie, I was so excited. I'd wake up in the morning and think, oh boy, I get to write. Because once you hook into the it of writing, whatever that it magic is, and it is the magic of writing, your mind opens up to a whole new world, and it's darn exciting. It really is. That's where your creative mind comes alive. I still get up in the middle of the night and write down ideas. I just did this morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Got up. Oh my gosh, I have to remember this title, had to remember these things. Because you lose ideas quickly. It's been said that you lose an idea between 8 and 10 seconds if it's something important and you don't write it down, if it's a random thought that comes your way. 8 and 10 seconds. So if you don't write it down, I can think of so many times that I've lost, that. Good, you write them down. I can think of so many times that I've just lost ideas. And I know that they're somewhere, but I can't find them anymore. And I keep thinking, oh, and I had that great idea. What was it? I was on the spin bike and I thought of the perfect title and now it's gone. Sit down and write, no matter what time. You won't regret it. People don't have just one idea in a lifetime. They have many ideas. But you have to unlock the door first, because the first is the hardest. The first book is the hardest. You think, oh, I'll never finish it. Oh, I'm so glad for these hearts, by the way. I'll never finish it. The first blog is the hardest. Will anyone read it? You go over and over and over it for spelling errors, or did I say it the right way? And then you publish it and you still miss something. I still find errors in every one of my books. You get your best ideas just before waking up. Isn't that amazing, Judy? I hope you have a pen and paper by your bed. I want to point out my first flowers of the season, my first roses of the season on my bushes. This one's called Double Delight. And it's in my front yard. And I brought this rose bush from Westlake Village, where I had Garrett's garden, the garden that I made for my son. And when I moved, I think that was the most heartbreaking thing I had to do, was leave behind the rose garden I had created for him. And I wrote a whole blog about that if you ever want to read it. Yeah, Double Delight. And it smells so good. And then this one is called Mr. Lincoln. And Mr. Lincoln is probably my favorite rose, because they are the long stem red roses. And these are from my bush. And right now there are probably at least 15 or 20 roses like this on my rose bush. And I can't decide, I'm conflicted. Do I just let them sit there so that I drive up every day and see that beautiful burst of color, or do I snip them and bring them inside? So I snipped a few and brought them inside for you. Aren't they pretty? And you can't, oh my gosh, the double delight is so heavenly. I wish you could smell through this. You planted Mr. Lincoln at church this spring. Is it blooming yet? Oh, that's like my favorite rose is Mr. Lincoln. So, and when they bloom, oh, glorious. Baby, oh, it's a baby, okay. Yeah, mine didn't do well the first year or two, and then it just, whew. But Double Delight I brought from Westlake Village, and I love it. So, okay, back to writing. Creative people don't just have one idea. They have many. But you have to focus on one at a time to get it done. And so I remember talking with a writing agent, and I was hoping that he would take me on, but he didn't. And I can tell you why. Because I told him about 5 ideas that I had for books and the one that I was writing. And I said, and then I've got this idea, and then I've got this idea, and then I've got this idea. But guess what? They were all sort of different genres. I looked like I overwhelmed him. He said, Sandy, just finish one at a time. And when you finish that one, then you get to go on to the next one. And that is what George R.R. Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones, said. The best advice he ever had was to finish what you're writing. Start writing and finish. Isn't that brilliant? So, self-doubt, that's part of the inner game. You're going to have it, guaranteed, as a writer. You're going to be at war with it because self-doubt is something that all human beings have. It just happens. It's that chatter in the back of your brain. And failure is so easy to look at because it feels more attainable than success. It's an event that if you look at it, failure can lead to your next great thing in life. Because if one thing fails, you've got it off your plate. You don't have to deal with it anymore. You're done. It's an event that leads to the next great part of you. Oh, I love it. Thank you. You get it. Yay, yay, yay. I know. I love that concept. It really made me think. You know, Elizabeth Gilbert, I like to refer to her as Liz because I've read all of her books, and I feel like I know her because of Eat, Pray, Love, and then I read her second book, Couples, I think it was, or Commitment. That was what it was. And she said that that book was a big fat failure. A big fat failure, Commitment. And I have to admit that I read it, but only about halfway through. I didn't finish it. It wasn't like Eat, Pray, Love. It had merit, but it wasn't like Eat, Pray, Love. It didn't hold me. And she said, I think I lost my way. But what that did was it gave her the feedback to do her next great thing. Now I'm reading her book, Big Magic. Oh, I love it. It's so for the creative. It keeps my fire burning for the creative mind. And yeah, she's got it. She's got it. I love her writing. So self-doubt, remember, is part of the inner game. You have to do war with it. Think about this. If you start writing about your story, if you know your story, wonder if your story, no matter how difficult, is actually continuing on to be your fairy tale with a happy ending. Think about that. Because what are fairy tales? They're triumph over adversity. So no matter how many bad things you've had in your life, It's the pursuit of the happy ending that keeps us going. And it doesn't have to be an ending. It can be just the next day and the next day and the next year or the next decade. Yeah, good. Good, Judy. Your fairy tale is just looking for its happy ending, so you keep going. Every life has ups and downs, and that's what makes it so darn rich. It's so rich. I guarantee you that even the people that say, oh, my life is boring, nothing's ever happened. If I sat down with them in a room and wrote their timeline with them, I guarantee that they would have a story worth telling. Everyone does. Sally, who is one of our regular listeners here, is my client, and she thought that her main story was the fact that she had lost her son just a couple years ago. But guess what? She had a whole history before that that was surprising to me. And I thought, wow, what an amazing woman you are for having survived all of that and to be able to write about it and to be able to have a book for her children. A miracle. A happy ending doesn't mean the end of your life. It means that you are writing your own chapters from this day forward. It's your future. It's your life. Here are some quotes from other writers that I want to share with you to inspire you to get writing. Maya Angelou says, I've written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out. Now that's Maya Angelou, a brilliant writer who had self-doubt, but she kept going. She had a whole slew of legacy to give to the world, and I'm so glad she did. Annie Lamott, I don't know if you read her work, but she is so much fun to read. She writes fiction and nonfiction. Her novels, Imperfect Birds and Blue Shoe, and her nonfiction was Grace Eventually and Help, Thanks, Wow, which I thought was hilarious. Her nonfiction is largely autobiographical, and she's often called the people's author because she's very accessible. People like to talk to her and she likes to talk to people, so she's got great social networking skills and everything. She says this about writing, and it's kind of a long quote, but bear with me. Becoming a writer is about becoming conscious. When you're conscious and writing from a place of insight and simplicity and real caring about the truth, you have the ability to throw the lights on for your reader. He or she will recognize his or her story, his or her life and truth in what you say. It's in the pictures you've painted if you're an artist. And this decreases the terrible sense of isolation that we have all had too much of. Now, I love that because it's about becoming conscious. Just like when Sally became consciously aware of how her whole past was a tapestry leading up to her courageous survival of a mother who had lost her child. She had the skills. She had to. She had a tough childhood. Tough. Annie Lamott says she tries to write the books she would love to come upon as a reader that are honest and concerned with real lives, human hearts, spiritual transformation, families, secrets, wonder. She loves to laugh, and she loves craziness too. I love her perspective because she doesn't stick with one genre in particular. She loves to just write. And I can say that I'm so lucky that's the way I've been too, because I started my writing path with writing screenplays with my husband, developing stories with my husband. He actually was the writer. And developing those stories and watching them come to life. They were all fiction. And they were so much fun. And my first book was a children's fairy tale. My first, second, and third were children's fairy tales. So those were fiction and colorful with pictures. And then the next book I wrote was nonfiction. And then this last book was nonfiction, of course, based on my survival as a mom who had lost a child. I'm so glad I had the courage to write that book. I have no regrets about writing that book. I laid bare my life. I filleted my life for the world to see in hopes that it would make a difference to other people who are going through that difficult time. And there's nothing easy about it. There would be nights that I would be writing and sobbing at the same time because I was forced to recall those times again and those memories that were so difficult. And yet I did it. And the next day I would look at myself and say, Sandy, I'm so proud of you. Do you ever say that to yourself? Do you ever say how proud you are of yourself? Look in the mirror and tell yourself how proud you are. Good. I'm glad you do. If you don't, start doing it. Good idea. Yes, Judy. Look in the mirror. Actually look in the mirror at your eyes. You'll be surprised how hard it is to look yourself in the eyes. The first time I did it, I kept looking away. I kept going like this. I could not look at my eyes in the mirror with emotion. Oh, I can look at myself in the mirror and put on makeup all day, but that's like a blank face. That's like a canvas, you know. Okay, now I color my eyebrows. Now I put on mascara. Now I do eyeshadow. I do lipstick. That's like a canvas. But when you really look at yourself in the mirror and say, Sandy, I am so proud of you. It's hard. We're not used to it. We're not. But it's something that I do every day now. Louise Hay introduced me to that thought. Louise Hay, who wrote Heal Your Life. You Can Heal Your Life. And she's the publisher of Hay House. She says, do your mirror work every day. And so, would you guys tell me if that makes a difference in your life when you do it? Let me know. Just send me a text or an email. Let me know if it was hard or it was hard for me. Not anymore. In fact, the first time that I actually successfully did it, I had tears streaming down my face. I was saying to myself, I love you and I'm so proud of you for all that you've done. Yeah. All right. We're going on long here. 5:35. Okay, so here's another quote from a writer, one of my favorites, George R.R. Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones, one of his most famous, but he is like a writing maniac. He writes. And here's what he said. I sort of gave you the hint earlier. The best writing advice I had was in Heinlein's Rules for Writers. Robert A. Heinlein was the author. And he's an American science fiction author. And he said his first rule is that you must write. And I was already doing that, George says. But his second rule is you must finish what you write. And that had an impact on me. That was George R.R. Martin who said that. Should I read that again? His first rule is that you must write. And what does Stephen Pressfield say? Put your butt in the chair. The second rule is you must finish what you write. And that's what people don't get. The commitment to finishing is key to being a writer. Another quote from Stephen King. Are you ready for this? I am always chilled and astonished by the would-be writers who ask me for advice and admit that they don't have time to read. This is like a guy starting up Mount Everest saying that he didn't have time to buy any ropes. Yeah, you must read to be a writer. You must read, and read all genres. I mostly read nonfiction, but vacations, I read fiction, and when I need downtime, chill time of the brain, I read fiction. You know, I remember about 3 years ago, I read the book Wild by Cheryl Strayed, and I remember reading that opening chapter. I was so moved by that opening chapter that I had tears streaming down my face. And I thought, there was one line in there, and I can't remember exactly how it goes, so I won't try and quote it. It was so powerful, I underlined it. And I read it again and cried again. It was about the loss of her mom. Wow, I said, I hope that one day I can write a chapter that is that compelling, that it makes your heart open. Beautiful. Here's another quote for you. Maya Angelou again. You can only become truly accomplished at something you love. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things you love doing and then do them so well that people can't take their eyes off of you. Now, I love that quote because I also love the fact that you're not demanding that your creativity pay your way in life. It's okay to have a day job. It's okay, I'm a real estate agent. I can't make my money as a writer right now. Not to say that I can't in the future, but right now it's not paying my mortgage. And it's paying some bills because I'm so blessed that I've had my coaching clients all this past year. But the main part of my income comes from real estate. And I am so grateful that I'm not demanding that my creativity fund my life. That way, I don't have to put restrictions or demands on my creativity. I can do it for the sheer joy of loving it. And then, as Maya Angelou says, do it so well that people can't take your eyes off of you. And that's where the shift happens. When you do it so well that the world wakes up to you. Hey there, Joel, welcome. Do it so well that the world cannot take their eyes off of you. That's when the shift happens. Another great quote from a writer, John Green, who wrote The Fault in the Stars, Looking for Alaska, and Paper Towns. Great, thank you, Joel. We're talking about writing and creativity. John Green says, whenever I'm asked what advice I have for young writers, I always say that the first thing is to read, and read a lot. The second thing is to write. And the third thing, which is absolutely critical, absolutely vital, thank you, my dear, is to tell stories and listen closely to the stories that you're being told. Again, that's reading others' work, listening to stories. As I work in my business profession, I get to hear stories all day long when I'm working with people. Listen to those stories. because they'll plant seeds of an idea for you to creatively come alive with your own story. Another thing that he writes 4 hours a day in the morning, and he sticks to a schedule, which is what I urge all of my writing clients to do, is stick to a schedule. When asked how did he feel about the books, okay, take care, Joel. When asked how did he feel about writing the books, he says it varies. Bonsoir. No, I'm sorry, I don't speak French, but I love French. It varies. He says, I'm usually pretty disappointed with the book when I finally turn in the last draft and hear that I can't revise it any further. He says, I worry a lot that no one will like it. I'm glad you find that funny. I would love to speak French, by the way, but I gotta put that on the front burner next time I go to France. I love France. He says, I worry a lot that no one will like it, and there it is again. You see how many famous writers have expressed self-doubt? Don't torture yourself for the self-doubt. Just ignore it and keep moving on. He says, I worry a lot no one will like it and that I've failed and that I haven't lived up to the story. And then when it comes out, there's a weird adjustment and I find myself really protective of the book and increasingly proud of it. And then after a while, it settles into ambivalence. And to be totally honest, he says, I feel proud of the books I've written, but they're also very finished for me. And you know, I know that feeling so well when I've finished. I felt it with my last book more than ever. Yeah. So your books get to a point, or your blogs get to a point where they belong to the readers. You give them away to the reader. And that's a great thing, because books are more powerful in the hands of readers than if you just keep it inside of you. And lastly, and here's one of my all-time favorite quotes for you, for all of you. Howard Thurman, I know you know this quote. He was a writer, a philosopher, and a civil rights leader. He says, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And that's my broadcast for you today, my friends. I am so grateful that you have been a part of this. And I hope that if you would like to know more, by the way, Shavana and I have our seminar coming up. It's a one-day, one-morning seminar, and it is at this sandypeckinpah.com. Go there and sign up for it. Oh my gosh, we're giving away so many gifts and so much knowledge to get your writing going, and I'm telling you, you will be inspired to start that very morning. You will be working on your story that very morning. And Shavana is a gifted healer. She's an author. She wrote her first book last year. She can tell you how exciting that moment is when you finally make that commitment. And we're giving away a beautiful bound journal and lots of tools and techniques that I have developed over the years, not only from my own writing, being an author since 1990, but also from working with my husband my late husband for 26 years with his writing. And I'm telling you, there are tools and tricks that I had to learn that I would love to share with you and help you on your writing journey. So again, if this interests you, go to sandypeckinpah.com, sign up for it, and join us. Yeah. All right, my friends, you are the best. Thank you for joining me. Tomorrow I have a showing late in the day of one of my big ranches. I'm so excited. I want to sell it too. If I get back in time, I've already got a program planned for you. So maybe you'll listen for the tweet if I come on. I'm hoping to be back in time, but I'm not 100% sure. So thank you for joining me Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Pacific time. You are the best. Have a great night.